Hey everyone, it's the Comic Estate. I just wanted to have like a discussion about polyamory, and also about like how much time we put into relationships, our social batteries, just things like that, with the backdrop of this Pokemon game. Except this is a ROM hack, so there isn't Pokemon, there's Digimon, but they're Pokemon, you know what I mean? So anyway, I don't even know what I'm supposed to do next in this game. But anyway, back to the actual discussion. Um, like one of the things I've been thinking about is like how much like social energy each person has. Like if we're thinking about like a battery and we say they have like 100%, and that's like their full amount of how much socializing and connecting they can do. Um, like the way people distribute that amount is going to be different for each person. And I think, for a lot of people, if you look at like the standard template of, most people want to be in like a relationship with like one person. Most people are monogamous. And then most people at least want to have some like friendships and stuff happening. Um, and then there's family, and like maybe children, like that might be a thing. But let's take children out of the equation just to make this conversation a lot easier. Like the general, the vibe is going to be like my significant other, so that one person is going to get like, at the bare minimum, I've seen like 50%, at the bare minimum. So I, and that's how much time like is spent with that person because they live with them, they're spending a lot of time with them. Um, and then in comparison to like, and then like the other 50% goes to like, 50 I think is the minimum really. Like for some people it's like 60% with that person. For some people it's 70. Some people 80. I mean, it can go a lot higher. But there are couples who spend like all their time with each other. But regardless, like you give that like leftover amount and you distribute it with your friendships, and then you also distribute it with family. And if we think about like, like let's just say family, we'll just say like, two or three other people, we'll say that. Once again, I'm just trying to like set the norm, like two or three other people, and then with friends, let's just say, I don't know, I mean, it also depends on the person. It's like you have friendship groups and then you have like specific friends you hang out with. That's already like a number of like people or events or uh, like time out of your social battery that you would have to take. Like at the bare minimum, it would be, family might be like one bunch that you see all at once. And then there might be like two social groups that you're a part of, and then you have like maybe your closest friend. At the very least, you're dividing that the other amount of time that you spend, by like at the bare minimum. I want to say like 4 or 5. That's at the minimum, which means the percentage that you would give to those people would be like, if you're giving like 50% to your significant other, then it would be like 10% for each person, or each like friendship group or whatever. And that's kind of like the max, I guess, the average person would be willing to go. For some people, they might, divvy it up even less. Like I have heard of like, people in relationships and they feel like their partner doesn't really spend a lot of time with them, and they're actually spending a lot of their energy with like different friendship groups, and work friends and all that stuff. So, the percentages can vary. But I was thinking about like, what does polyamory do to those percentages? And I think it's kind of interesting because, because it's multiple relationships, um, and it kind of, uh, like that kind of, like minimum of like, maybe like 10% that you would give to a friendship group or to a close friend, that doesn't necessarily cut it for some people. Like I haven't really heard of, people having like, 10 or like a really large number of polyamorous relationships. Not that it's not possible, but when we're talking about time and effort and stuff, like I, that maybe that 10% that you would normally give to like that friend or that friendship group, like that amount of time might not be enough because it's now a relationship. And then when we think about like how much time should you put into a relationship, like if you ask that question, things will like start to vary because um, it it depends on the friend, but the word relationship has connotations of spending a bunch of time with each other. So the question ends up becoming like, well, how much of my social battery am I going to give to this person? And I think the second people think about like relationships, like the battery ends up going like like quite high. Like it ends up being like like the 50s, and especially if you're living together, like it ends up being like a really high percentage. Um, uh, and if and like and then the friendship percentage is generally like like 10 at max, really. Like you're really not, at least from what I've seen, most people aren't giving more than that or aren't willing to give more than that. And I've been thinking about like how much people like value like platonic connections. And for example, if you're someone who like really, really, really values like going deep, like a deep connection with like a friend, and you want it to be almost like a relational dynamic, and that's why things like platonic relationships exist, like QPRs. If you're trying to get to that level, um, maybe that getting like just like 10%, getting that 10% might not be enough for you. And I think that's where that like that word like relationship kind of helps out, because you're kind of signaling in a certain way that you want more than that a lot of time, more than what that what that means. It's like a committed partnership. It's a committed relationship. So I think yeah, like I've just been pondering about that. Like what kind of makeup does everyone want? Like I think about like my makeup, and I want kind of like because I'm polyamorous, like I would want like multiple close knit relationships, and regardless of whether they're romantic, platonic, like I don't really care about that kind of naming. Like for me, it's just as long as it's close, it's good. And yeah, if it's like 20, like I would be willing to put like 20% to 20 to 30% for each like relationship that I would have, which from the perspective of monogamy might not look as good. Like it might be like, oh well, that's not enough, because from the perspective of monogamy you should be giving like maybe 50, and I don't think that's like wrong in wanting that. I just think like it's important that the ratios match, like with the person that you're with, or the people that you're with. Like the ratios need to match, because then there isn't like that push pull of like, oh, this person wants to hang out with me so much more than I want to hang out with them, or vice versa. Like you might want to hang out a lot more and they don't. So like getting that ratio like kind of close, or as close as you can, I think is like really important. And understanding like what kind of connections do you want your life to be filled with is also just as important. Uh, like do you value, like just going by the percentages I've been using, like do you actually value connections that are on the level of 5%? Like does that feel like an important connection to you? Like for some people it is, and for some people it isn't. Like it's important to ask those questions. Is 10% like a good connection in your eyes? Is 20%? Is 25%? Like whatever you deem to be a valuable connection, I think that's what people should be striving for, and then signaling that so that it's out there, and then people who can like kind of match that can be like, oh, I can live up to that, I can be that, because I also want that. If you want it, then you can be it. That's one of the cool things. If the desire is genuine, you'll have like behaviors that actually like correlate. Um, and if the desire is based on a certain amount of like self-awareness, so not just a desire for something that doesn't exist, but something that you yourself can also perform to. Um, so yeah, I've just been thinking about like like how we structure relationship, and how we structure time into it, and how much time we think certain kinds of relationships deserve. But really, it's up to each of us to kind of format our own like percentages, and format like what we want our life to look like, and to like signal that lifestyle like a beacon, like regardless of what other people think, or whether it's considered normal or not. Like I think there's a lot of shaming for like genuine desires, and and I think the shaming isn't necessarily that overt, unless maybe like a toxic parent says a bunch of stuff. But generally, it's a bit more subtle. It's a bit more like, can I even ask for this? Like, is this possible? And I feel like it's barely been playing this game. I feel like it's like important to try to yeah, just go after that, signal that desire as much as possible, like in a way that can be received, in a way that feels like genuine. Um, so yeah, that's kind of my 2 cents on that. I'm curious what people think. Like for example, like, do you think it's healthy to what if the percentages is literally like someone's into polyamory, and then it's just 25, 25, 25, 25, which means all of your social battery is just going into technically relationships. Like you wouldn't have any social battery for friendships. Is that healthy? Like if I look at mine, most people would say no. But then what if someone who doesn't actually enjoy anything under, like something like a deeper connection? What if they're not wired that way? What if they just don't value that? Then what do you do? Then like polyamory is actually a really good solution for them technically. And then like obviously, maybe it's more like 20, 20, 20, and then like 20 for friends, or like, I don't know. It really depends on what the person wants for their life. Like, um, yeah, yeah, it's like, I think it's only, unhealthy if it doesn't actually coincide with your genuine like joy. Like if it's not actually like making you happy, like then, and it's actually, like creating like a lot of problems and stuff, then yeah, like that would be bad. Like for example, if you have 25, 25, 25, 25, like 100% of your social energy is just going into relationships, but you're actually someone who is genuinely nourished by having friendships, then you should absolutely have friendships, right? Like that makes sense. Like you should absolutely have friendships if you're actually nourished by them. Um, because I think about like people who just go out into the woods. Yeah, like there are people technically who are like, I actually genuinely prefer the company of animals over humans. And like I don't think that's such a like a foreign experience. Like have you ever like been talking to someone, and then you see their cat, and then you just move towards the cat, and not talking to them, you're just fixated by the cat? Like, is it just novelty, or is it something something that your being is just like, what, I'm down for some like non-verbal communication right now. you know like is that, what I mean? So I mean, like people who like work in like zoos and stuff, or like, I don't know, like Jane Goodall or something. Like there are people who spend like significant amount of time with animals. Um, like it, like, and that's like how they like they're socializing through like non-verbal cues. Like it's technically valid. Like you can technically, yeah, like curate it however you want it to curate it. Just as long as it's consistent with your joy, as long as it's consistent with your like your actual happiness. And yeah, like that is, I think that is the most important thing. Um, yeah, yeah. Let's see. Do I have anything else to ponder? Not really, to be honest. Yeah, I think that's it. That's the end. All right. Thanks for listening. And yeah, have a good one. Okay. Bye.